But I also asked you guys, which Sega Saturn game do you think deserves a modern remake? And so we actually talked about remasters, which is a little something slightly different, right? I was thinking of Final Fantasy VII, which got a remake or two now, I think, right? Like two
Or
parts.
3 in the pipe.
Okay. But we can go the remaster route if you feel like it. But which Sega Saturn should be remade, remastered, and a brief explanation why?
I wonder if Dan and I might have the same one for this. We might not. I don't know. Maybe.
Probably similar ones. I've got backups just in case. So you go first, mate.
Well, I the obvious one is Panzer Dragoon Saga. You know, it's the elephant in the room, isn't it? I mean, all the talk of the source code being lost and doesn't mean you can't just remake the damn thing from scratch. I mean, could you imagine Panzer Dragoon Saga done the way Final Fantasy VII Remake's been done? Could you imagine? I mean, there's Dan's face. No wonder you've got that expression. It's just, that would be unbelievable. You imagine how good those canyons and the waterfalls would look, the battles. Oh man, Azelle would look incredible. Just the battles, the mechanics. The thing is that game still holds up incredibly well. The battle mechanics on that are absolutely phenomenal. The dragon morphing mechanics as well. You know, if your dragon doesn't have the skill set you need for that particular enemy, you can change it. You can make your dragon whatever you want it to be in terms of, you know, strength and, you know, agility, magic. So it's just amazing game. So that's the obvious one that comes up. It may also help stop people asking $1,000 for a copy of it, you know, since like just ridiculous. But I think that's, see, Dan, I had that one, and another one I had for you. I'm not going to say it in case it's the other one in my head, but I think Panzer Dragoon Saga is the one I thought we would both go for off the bat.
It's just a quick question: would you hand it to Atlas, to like the Persona team, or like the what do you call the ones that like the spin-off team for Metaphor?
The ones that make Metaphor.
Yeah, I can't remember. Would you hand it to those guys, or would you be afraid that they would change it and modernize it too much?
I wouldn't be very afraid that they'll modernize it. I think the visual style of Atlas's games are kind of almost incompatible with Panzer Dragoon. They're very much anime, and I'm very recent getting into the Persona games and Metaphor, but I absolutely love those games and I love the look. But they are very much their own thing. You know, I think that they could do something like a Dragon Force that is very much anime. You know, that sort of style, but Panzer Dragoon is very much not of that art style. You know, its visual design, its aesthetic is tied to kind of Mobius, and that sort of art style. It's distinctly not anime. You know, even though it's Japanese origin, it was very much Western influenced. So, I love Atlas, but I wouldn't want Atlas touching it.
Hence my question. Yeah, I was thinking they could be a good fit, but maybe they would change the what made the game so important, so beloved by people. By the way, Studio Zero are the ones behind Metaphor, like and P Studio for Persona, obviously. Yeah,
I reckon Ryogo Kotaku could do it. You know, they make RPGs now. You know, they've made a couple, and they have that kind of they manage that kind of realistic look.
Yeah,
they're busy with Virtua Fighter 6, mate.
They make everything for
Streets of Rage 4. Streets of Rage 3D.
And then they're making the monkey. They're doing the monkey
They're
ball
making
games as well. Exactly. They do everything.
Okay. So Rav, before we get to Dan,
right? So I feel like the ship has sailed for this because it's been dying down. But I would say Sakura Wars, because there was a tactical RPG boon a handful of years ago with Firehouse Free, no,
Fire
Fire Emblem Free
Emblem Three
Houses.
Houses, yeah.
Free Houses, yeah. And after that, there were a bunch of other like big profile, relatively speaking, tactical RPGs like the Tactics Ogre remake and Triangle Strategy and Front Mission and a bunch of. There's clearly a market for those, and there's plenty of very good indie games as well.
You now have
So
like you can go the XCOM route with how they did with Mario and Rabbids, and now
yeah, that one too.
the one that came out recently, Metal Slug
Metal
Tactics.
Slug Tactics, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I think it's still
Yeah, it's
a
still
relevant genre. Yeah.
not as strong, but it
Mhm.
is. Yeah, it's still active. I mean, people are still begging Square Enix for a Final Fantasy Tactics remake to this day. Like every single day, you see lots of people online doing it. So I think the market is there for Sega to capitalize on it and use the Sakura Wars brand as a tactical RPG again instead of the action game from a few years ago.
I like that one, but I think if they released it today, the way they've been promoting games now, the way they've been like getting people hyped up for their games, I think it would have done much better. But I'm not a Sakura Wars connoisseur or anything, but I like
Yeah.
the one they released in 2020.
It's still a very popular. It's a bit niche, but it's still a popular
Mm.
IP, I would say, despite that game. Even though it wasn't really the same thing as the others. Or alternatively, instead of Sakura Wars, we could do a Shining Force 3 remake. So it's still the same. They're the same idea. It's the same genre. So my spiel applies anyway.
Okay, Dan.
I just thought it wasn't an interesting, or at least a comparable brand recognition wise. Go on, Dan. Sorry.
That's fine. There's an obvious one and there's a less obvious one. I think I'll go for the obvious one at least first. And the obvious one is for me is Burning Rangers, which is probably what James was going to say. Burning Rangers is obviously a game that came late to the Sega Saturn, came out in 1998, made by Sonic Team. Absolutely phenomenal game. I absolutely adore it. I absolutely love the personal side to it. When you rescue civilians from these burning levels, you get fan mail from them, and because of the stages are procedurally generated, there's like 3,000 combinations. There's all sorts of different people that you're sending. They all you get to live their story. Every time I boot that game up, I'm going into my fan mail, and I was like, "Oh, it's her again. It's the doctor." Is, "Oh yeah, I've quit doctor. I've become like a charity worker or something." And this one's like, "Oh, because of you, I've gone through college." And there's just scripts somewhere, but I'm just like, oh, you know. But the thing is with the game is, came out early '98. It was made by Sonic Team when they were clearly trying to just get it out the door and focus on Sonic Adventure, which was coming out that year. You know, the Sega Saturn was, on its last legs, commercially, and Sega were just like, look, just get it out. It's one of the last games to come out in the West. So as much as that game is visually impressive for all the effects work it does, it is unfortunately quite buggy visually. And it would there is kind of a fan remake going around, which looks absolutely spectacular. But it really is a game that is it's like Nights into Dreams. It's quite unlike anything else that's out there. And more people deserve to experience it. It's an absolutely phenomenal game, and it really does. It's one of these ones where it's nice to say, right, well, these experiences are unique to Saturn, and they're what make the Sega Saturn special. But by the same token, you want everyone to be able to play these games, kind of regardless of what platform they're playing on in the model day. So that was kind of my main run.
Another
Great
one is
Allow
pick.
Deep
one more.
Fear.
Pick. Yeah.
If we allow one more, it'll be Deep Fear.
Okay.
Because that game, absolutely, and another, it's kind of like these, Panzer Dragoon is a 98 game. Shining Force 3 is a 1998 game, at least in the West. So was Burning Rangers, and Deep Fear also came out. Didn't even get an American release. And it's it's a phenomenal survival horror game, quite unlike anything else. It's very much Resident Evil inspired, but still puts its own twist on it to give you that sense of dread and kind of panic when your air meters kind of dwindling down. And to this day, there still really isn't anything quite like it out there, because the way that it handles tension and everything. Oh, this is the final part of the game, I think, when the with the timer up there. But yeah, you got the screen is red because you're running out of oxygen. If you fire your gun off, the oxygen's going to deplete faster. It's a fantastic game. I played through it back in '98 with a friend. Well, we played through it together, and then I played through it again. I think it was earlier this year. Just a brilliant game that deserves to be played by more people.
Yeah. This is a good shout as well. Okay. Yeah.
Great shouts, mate. Great shouts.
Excellent. Excellent. I wanted to show something a little bit more exciting, but
This
Yeah.
is exciting.
Yeah.
This part.
This-
This is when everything's about to explode.
Doesn't
Okay.
get any more exciting than that.
You get that? Exactly. Time's running out.
It's getting its
The
harpoon out in
mutations
slow
in this
motion.
game are just like they're grotesque, aren't they, Dan? Like the mutations are, some of them are just horrid, man. It's like there's some really grotesque mutations in this game, but that's a great shout. Another one that gets really overlooked has just been a cheap Resident Evil clone, but
Mhm.
those mechanics, topping up the oxygen, manning your gunfire to make sure it doesn't deplete the oxygen any further. Brilliant.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so those are some great picks. I mean, who knows? Sega should at least somewhat acknowledge these like milestone anniversaries for the Saturn and consider doing something with their IPs. But it is what it is. So that brings us, unless anyone else wants to add any other game. No. Okay. So that brings us.
Right, one more.
One more.
Columbo Star.
There he goes.
Okay.
Fighters Megamix. Come on. We need a new Fighters Megamix.
Oh, that
We
would
need
go
a new
so
Fighters
well.
Megamix, or at least a remake of the old one. One
I
of the
mean,
best fighting games of all time.
I agree. I just don't think it would work out because it would have. I think that in order for it to work out, it would have to be like a multiverse or Smash Bros esque like party brawler kind of game, and not a one-on-one classic fighter.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
think
okay.
I think it would work. I think if you look at what Sega basically took their two kind of at that time big fighting games and put them against each other. But then if you think of what's come since Last Bronx, like get the Last Bronx guys in there, get the Shenmue guys in there. Can you imagine you could have Lan Di against Ryu? You could finally just avenge your father without sitting through seven discs and then waiting for the third game, and then the fourth game's God knows where. Like, you just pick Lan Di versus Ryu and then just kick the dung at him without having to bother playing the game. You've got your revenge. That's it. It's like, and you could have Ryu versus Kiryu-san. It's like, that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
with these
it
mashup games.
would work if you could add like all these
Jet Set
massive
Radio characters.
Yeah.
Exactly. Shinobi,
get them
like
all in.
Joe Musashi, Ai
Knuckles
from
versus
Super Monkey
Axel.
Ball.
Axel versus Knuckles.
Okay, there we go.
You know,
Yeah, which
I know-
Axel?
Mate,
The Crazy Taxi
there's a
one or
palm tree.
the Streets of Rage one?
Axel
the
versus
EM2
Axel.
Palm Tree was in
Yes.
the first game, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
madness.
yeah.
I think it does work.
I mean,
I
think
think
it does work
it
in
would
modern
work
day as well.
because like people are craving for more like Capcom versus Marvel,
Well,
Marvel
yeah,
versus
but-
Capcom and stuff. So if they're big enough characters, but the thing is they're Sega characters, so that's the issue. Is there a market for this amongst Sega fans? Yes, but enough to I don't
it
know.
would have to be competitively viable, though. Like Fighters Megamix definitely wasn't. Like it was a mishmash of 25 different games put together, and you couldn't get any sort of balance for it to be taken seriously on a competitive sense. And I
It
feel
would
that that is a must.
absolutely- It would piss on Super Smash Brothers from the highest of heights. Sega's roster absolutely just annihilates that Nintendo roster. I mean, asking whether it would work or not, Rav, come on, man. He plays a car, the horn that beats the shit out of people with his wee tires. Like, of course it would work.
the AM2 palm tree. Yeah, of course, exactly.
You would need. You wouldn't need the crappy, like they got the Fire Emblem characters in Smash Bros, and it's like you got like, what's his name, Narf or some stupid name with a sword. It's like, who is this guy? Who is he? You know, it's
That
not
was his
say you got
introduction
Axe
to the
Battler
West.
or someone from. You could have people from Golden Axe in it. You could have. Like, and the thing is, I think the control works. You know, in Fighters Megamix. You know, Smash Bros is really simple. But Smash Bros is weird, and Smash Bros is really unbalanced as well. People only say, "Oh, yeah, this is only a viable tournament character." It's only because it's got 80 characters that people find something to work. But Fighters Megamix could work the same as that. And I think the 3-button setup, your guard, punch, and kick, just makes it accessible for people. And I think if you handled it right, if you market it right, if you put Sonic the Hedgehog in there rather than Bean and Bark, and if you put kind of people that
Why not all of them?
Yeah, I love Bean and Bark, but you know,
so if you've got like 80 characters in Smash, why not 80 characters in Fighters Megamix? 2K25 or something.
Don't get me wrong, I would love it. I just think that it would have to be done differently for it to work. That's just it.
Could you imagine if you had like tag teams in it, like Marvel versus Capcom? You had Akira and like BD Joe, but Yunen Hayakataka, yeah, we'll be on our way. And a tag team. I'm seeing this in my head.
That reminds me.
Let's make some Bakamitai.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Sega Heroes mobile game, like the puzzle mobile game where you could create a team with like
Sega Heroes
from Choo Choo Rocket, the mouse from Choo Choo Rocket with Tom Johnson from Shenmue, and
dame.
Ryo Hazuki like teaming with Ulala, like I will get my revenge. Choo choo choo.
Hey there, space cats. Hand over the mirror. The possibilities are endless here.
Hurry along, easy right, smack. In fact, that would be the Sega Rally guy has to be the narrator. Round 1, fight, uppercut.
Maybe.
Yes.
Right?
Fight, maybe.
And then everyone presses up, overjump.
Yeah. Okay. Sega, just take all of like the past 10 minutes of this show and give us Fighters Megamix next gen.
Take the last 10 minutes of this podcast and take it to your boardroom at Sega Sammy and just go, look, man, this is the pitch. What do you think? It would have worked in the 90s. They made anything in the 90s, man.
Where do I sign? Okay, there you go.
The door down with the papers.
Yeah, like
free money for you guys.